If Mogadishu were declared the property of the Hoi, it should be transformed other regions of Somalia. Introduction. The question of how to manage sovereignty and resource distribution in complex, historically fragmented nations like Somalia remains a critical geopolitical challenge. Mogadishu, as the nation's capital, holds significant historical, political, and economic weight. The hypothetical scenario wherein Mogadishu is declared the exclusive property of the Hoi clan raises profound implications not just for that specific group but for the entire Somali federal structure. Such a declaration, while potentially addressing historical grievances or claims within a localized context, would necessitate a fundamental restructuring of national priorities. If ownership were localized in this manner, the imperative would shift toward transforming the economic and infrastructural capacities of other regions to ensure equitable national development and prevent the total collapse of the Somali state into further fragmentation. The implications of localized capital ownership declaring Mogadishu the property of a single clan, even one as central to the city's history as the Hoi, fundamentally undermines the concept of a unified Somali state. However, accepting this premise for analytical purposes forces a consideration of necessary compensatory actions for the rest of the nation. If the primary nexus of federal governance, international aid, and high-level commerce were exclusively controlled by one entity, the remaining federal member states, FMS, would be severely disadvantaged. The concentration of wealth, infrastructure investment, and political influence in Mogadishu would exacerbate existing regional disparities, potentially fueling secessionist tendencies or renewed internal conflict among disenfranchised groups. Redistribution of focus and investment. The core transformation required in other regions would center on deliberate, large-scale investment away from the capital. This does not imply abandonment of Mogadishu but rather a strategic decentralization of national focus. Key areas needing urgent transformation include infrastructure, education, and security architecture across the FMSs, such as Puntland, Jubaland, and the Southwest State. Infrastructure and economic corridors for regions outside Hoi control. Major national investment should target the development of alternative economic hubs. For example, port cities like Kismayo in Jubaland or Bosaso in Puntland would need significant upgrades to compete with Mogadishu's port facilities, fostering alternative trade routes. Furthermore, connecting these emerging hubs through rehabilitated road networks, such as the critical routes linking Baidoa to the central regions, becomes essential. This diversification prevents reliance on a single, politically contested urban center for all national economic activity. Decentralization of governance and security. If the executive and legislative functions were to remain partially or wholly in Mogadishu under the Hoi's purview, the remaining regions must be empowered to manage their own internal security and resource management robustly. This necessitates a genuine federal system where regional administrations have the financial and military autonomy to govern their territories effectively, reducing the need for constant mediation or support from the capital. Training programs and direct funding for regional security forces, rather than centralized Somali National Army structures, would be a key transformation point, mirroring successful localized stabilization efforts seen in parts of Somaliland or Puntland prior to recent disputes. Educational and human capital development. A vital element of transformation involves bolstering human capital outside the capital. Mogadishu historically attracts the most educated professionals and hosts the primary national universities. If its ownership is restricted, the state must immediately invest in establishing and funding high-caliber, internationally recognized universities and technical colleges in regional centers like Garo or Beledweyne. This transformation ensures that administrative and technical skills necessary for regional self-governance are developed locally, reducing the brain drain toward the politically complex capital. Conclusion. The hypothetical scenario of Hoi ownership of Mogadishu serves as a stark illustration of the dangers inherent in centralizing power and resources in a nation marked by clan politics. If such an arrangement were enforced, the transformation of other regions would not be merely desirable but an absolute political necessity for the survival of Somalia as a single entity. This transformation must be strategic, focusing on building robust, economically viable, and politically autonomous regional states capable of standing independently of the capital's specific governance structure. Only through this radical decentralization and targeted investment in infrastructure, security, and education across the FMSs could the resulting imbalance be managed, allowing for a reconstituted, if highly decentralized, national framework to persist.